In section 1.3, we're going to be looking at the midpoint formula, and our goal here is to find the midpoint of segment JK, giving the coordinates for J and for K. To start, we need to look back on the midpoint formula. If you look at the midpoint formula, it states midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. I like to think of it as the average of the x's and the average of the y's. Your answer should be an ordered pair, but not one single answer. So to start, first thing I always do is label my x1, y1 right up top, just like we did for distance formula. Label x2, y2, and then we're going to substitute in. To substitute in, my x1 is negative 2. My x2 is 1. My y1 is 4. And my y2 is a positive 3. The next thing we're going to do is simplify the numerators by adding together negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now we have a fraction. Technically, both of these fractions are reduced, and you could leave this, and this is your answer. But for the example we're going to do today, it's actually nice to look at it decimal form. So the first part is negative 1/2, and the second part is 3.5. This answer is our midpoint of the segment JK. The second part, or the second way to find the midpoint, is to look at it in the form of a table. If you look at the table over here on the right side, we just take a standard XY table. And what I did was I took our first endpoint. Now notice how I set this out. Here's endpoint J. We put negative 2 and 4. And then at the bottom, we put the second endpoint, which is K, 1 and 3. They are in the same X columns, and they're in the same Y columns. Now if you look, we're finding the midpoint, the middle point between the two endpoints. So one thing we're going to do, we're actually going to give us a little room to work here. And the first thing I'm going to look at is what is the difference between negative 2 and 1. So what's the difference between the endpoints? Well, they're 3 units away. If I go from negative 2, I move up 3 units to 1. So if I want to find the middle point, the midpoint of my x's, I'm going to figure out, well, what is half of 3? Half of positive 3 is 1.5. And I'm going to move up 1.5 from my first endpoint. So think of it as negative 2 plus positive 1.5. That's going to give me negative 1.5. That is the first spot, or the first coordinate of my midpoint. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my y's. If I go from 4 to 3, what happened? I went down 1. Since I need to find the point that's exactly in the middle of 4 and 3, I'm going to take half of the difference, which is negative 0.5, and I'm going to go ahead and add 4 plus negative 0.5 and give me a positive 3.5. So I went down 0.5. And if you look at the coordinates of that midpoint, we have negative 0.5, comma, 3.5, the exact same solution as we had using the formula. Some people find the table a much easier way to do midpoint. It's really helpful if you know the midpoint and you're working backwards.